This is the second house that I lived in here in Gardena, right over here. We moved in here in 1953, bought it brand new for a cost of $12,000. 3-bedroom house with a nice big backyard, a nice good sized front yard. You don't get those anymore. They build a house that's almost touching these days, you know. This whole tract consists of 59 homes. They were all built in 1952. Well, back in those days, it was all white, and most of the mothers were home with the kids. The fathers were able to make enough money to make ends meet back in those days, unlike now, where if you don't have 2 incomes coming in, you don't make it. But back in these days, my dad's salary gross was $100 a week, and he probably got home after taxes and deductions with about $94, $95 of it. And out of that, he paid the house payment on the house, a car payment, supported a wife and 3 kids. We never went for anything. We had everything we needed. You couldn't do that now with 3 or 4 times that much money.
I think there were parts of Gardena or the local area where it was sort of known that if you're not white, you don't buy there. And I think some of the realtors in the area, you know, supported that practice.
I came down to 146th Street where they were building a housing tract, and the realtor told me, he says, no, we cannot sell to you because we're going to keep the Japanese out of our housing. Well, I found out who the builder was, so I went to the builder, and I says, you know that this town of Gardena has always had a very strong population of Japanese, and I think that it's wrong to say that you can't sell to Japanese. Well, the builder told me I didn't instruct that to the realtor, so will you go back and tell him that whoever wants to buy can buy. So I went back to him, and the whole street, 146th Street and 145th, where the housing tract was being built, eventually ended up, I would say, about 95% Japanese Americans.
Well, it's interesting. If you take a look at the area, which is now Holly Park, there are not a lot of Americans of Japanese ancestry in that area. And the reason for that, they weren't allowed to buy in that area. And if you take a look at it also close to St. Anthony's, which was Old Town, downtown Gardena, Japanese and others were not encouraged to buy there. So for the most part, you will see west and south is where the Japanese American community ended up developing.
Not only myself, but there were other people that opened real estate. Nakajima Company, Ken Nakaoka Company. We all decided to go into real estate business because we could serve the Japanese American community. Up until then, there were no Japanese realtors.
You know, coming out of World War II, it's hard enough to save enough money to buy a house. And then to try to go out and buy a house and being told you can't live here, move on to somewhere else, is quite discouraging. And so you have to give the first and second generation Japanese Americans a lot of credit for just having the courage to hang in there and keep going.
All of us went into the real estate business and it came out very well. We all succeeded in that. I think that kind of convinced or showed all the realtors throughout California that to discriminate against any particular group of people is not the thing to do when you're selling real estate.